So Netflix made a Money Heist spinoff about Berlin, and today we're gonna find out whether it's good, bad, or downright ugly. I've gotta say, the show wasn't that unexpected. I mean, it isn't the first time companies would milk franchises for every last dime, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. Spin-offs, prequels, even remakes are everywhere these days. The real issue is getting them to live up to the hype of their predecessor, or just making them a good addition to the franchise and not some pointless cash grab. Looking at you, Continental. That said, Money Heist was a phenomenal show that took the world by storm, and proved to us that we could in fact love brazen criminals, given the right circumstances. It even inspired a real-life heist, and at that point, you know you've got something. The producer of the show was Alex Pena, the same man who wrote Money Heist, but does it mean the show will be anywhere as good as its predecessor? Well, let's find out. If you haven't already, make sure to like this video and do well to subscribe, as you'd be helping me and this channel a whole lot. Like, you literally have no idea. Also, at the end of this video, I'm going to be rating the show on a scale from 1 to 10, so stick around to find out where I place it. Spoiler, it's not what you would expect. Without further ado, let's get into it. So first off, I'm going to give you a brief rundown of the plot, and if you already know what it's about, you can skip to this time frame on the screen. So basically, way before Money Heist even begins, Berlin sets up this elaborate heist to steal jewels worth 44 million euros, belonging to the powerful families across Europe, that's set up for auction. However, while the heist is actively in progress, he falls in love with the wife of the man he's trying to steal from. And boy, does this open a can of worms, which I will talk about later in this video, but for now, that's the main point of everything. So now that you're up to speed, let's talk about the characters, of which two were pretty much cardboard copies of characters in Money Heist, with a few changes here and there. The obvious wild card of the team and the young reckless dude who's madly in love with her. The other two young ones in the gang are a Purdue University graduate with apparently an IQ capable of working for NASA, and a guy who can tell the name and venom of potentially any reptile he sees, apparently. Others include Berlin himself, obviously, who serves as the mastermind, paired with the charming university professor. Thankfully, the writers didn't try to recreate Money Heist's professor with this guy, at least not too much. It's funny though how our university professor decides he's going to spend his free time as a crime lord. Same thing with the girl with the engineering degree. For guys this smart, it's quite the interesting career path, but oh well, I guess we can't all be rational. That said, it is an interesting cast to say the least. The story was set majorly in Paris, France, the beautiful city of love, and the producers did not waste their time to capitalize on that fact. Or maybe they even chose the location because of the characters we're following. Nonetheless, we got to see firsthand the power of love, and apparently it is a very dangerous, very evil, very malicious thing, at least according to this movie. Now, the romance in this film was, well, apart from being very tropey, tiring. We've got the bad boy that's trying to hide the fact that he's a bad boy, but then falls in love with his obviously mentally ill badass colleague. What's interesting is Cameron claims she's had her heart broken and is afraid to fall in love again, but then proceeds to lead Roy on several occasions. Damn girl, maybe make up your mind. The romance between Roy and Cameron was actually kind of interesting. That said, there were many instances where their relationship just felt like it was ripped out of a Disney high school drama script. Speaking of teenage dreams, Kayla and Bruce, now that was a funny one. Aside the fact that the sexual tension was just choking the room and they never actually got to go down on each other, which by the way is bizarre. I'm also wondering why exactly. Like, this is the kind of trope you would see in a predominantly romance movie, particularly Korean, or as I said, high school drama. This isn't the kind of romance meant for a heist story. Tokyo and Rio, Denver and Stockholm, now those are heist romances. By the way, this is extremely subjective and it's just my opinion on it. Speaking of dangerous love stories, Berlin is the complete embodiment of dangerous love. Literally. This guy's an asshole, and not just any ordinary asshole, a narcissistic asshole who can't take his eyes off a woman once they're set in place. And he's also willing to do anything, including essentially destroy said woman's life to get what he wants. I was getting some serious Joe Goldberg vibes off him. After essentially making Camille believe she wasn't happy with her current life, he went ahead to have her husband jailed for his crime. I mean, if that doesn't just scream bad news, I don't know what does. Now, what gets to me is the fact that this show portrays this woman as some lovesick puppy who can't tell when some things obviously don't add up. Or in this case, when a man you've never met in your life knows the exact records you'll listen to. The fact that she was still genuinely in love with him after that and was even hesitant to report him to the police after A, she found out he was the mastermind behind the whole heist in the first place, B, she found out he had meticulously framed Polyak for a crime of this magnitude. We're talking about a crime that's, according to Inspector Lavelle, the heist of the century, A heist so huge that they literally had to invite Spanish Europol, just because of its magnitude. Even after all this, even after she found out that he'd been stalking her for weeks, she's still hesitant to report his ass to the police. Berlin committed differing grades of crimes that could land him anywhere from 25 years to life in prison. Add that to the fact that he's a fugitive in an ongoing pursuit, and the thin line between love and reality starts to vanish. Oh, and before I forget, I have to talk about her friend. Cause like, she was onto something there with being understandably suspicious of the guy who appeared out of nowhere the same time things started going haywire. But then she went on a whole tangent about how if Camille reported the obviously dangerous criminal to the police, thereby freeing her lawfully wedded husband, she would have nothing to gain and would have everything to lose. And she goes on and on about how Camille doesn't deserve to be the loser in all this, and she comes up with a very reasonable solution. Why not take a cut of the stolen money yourself? It's brilliant! I mean, since you have your heart broken, you might as well be a thief as well. A heartbroken thief. I hope I don't have to begin to explain why this is wrong on all levels. It should be very self-explanatory. I mean, that scene was sending me, I ain't gonna lie. Not only is Camille contemplating leaving an innocent man in prison charged with crimes that not even the best lawyer in all of France can help him, but she's also contemplating taking a huge cut of the money that got him there in the first place. I'm not an expert on the topic of cheating and whatnot, but even if she was infuriated with him for having a relationship behind her back, which is literally what she did herself, it most definitely shouldn't be an excuse to aid and abet crime. And I can't help but wonder that maybe, just maybe if she reported, the police might have actually caught them, but hey, I guess we'll never know. Speaking of getting caught, the gang in this movie sure are lucky, are meticulously overly cautious planners. You'd think only the professor could pull off this level of godlike preparation to the point of near omnipotence, but apparently Berlin is right up his alley, conceiving a contingent for basically every possible mishap, even those that are apparently created by their own never-ending impulses. For example, the jewel that Roy and Cameron lost in an illegal car race, I was almost certain that that was the ace. That was the sole mistake that would end this whole escapade. And while they tried to deliver on that front, they were just too many plot conveniences for it to land. Another example would be when Kayla got bit by a snake and they were literally in the custody of the police on their way to the hospital. Only a literal miracle should have saved them at that point. And it sure did. I suppose you know where I'm going with this. The police chase wasn't that much of a chase and was more of an opportunity for our main cast to get their damn feelings straight and do what they've been wanting to do forever. I have to mention though that I love the inclusion of Sierra and Raquel in this. As always, they delivered with quick wits and excellent character. Like, once they're on screen, there is no looking away. They own the screen. And can I also just go off the rails and say the actors in general were great, by the way? Really felt the energy. Speaking of Sierra and Raquel, that's another thing that grated on me. The fact that these obviously very competent, maybe even too competent law enforcement agents couldn't catch a bunch of novices with the impulses of teenagers. It's just beyond my scope of understanding. Now, I'm also going to point out something, and it's not something that necessarily annoyed me, but it just piqued my interest. The show portrays love through the view of the main character in a way that is not healthy or even true. Berlin is not the luckiest at finding love, nor hard to see why. Nonetheless, he is unlucky, and it can have its effects, like, in Berlin's case, turning you completely psycho to the point of having a warped sense of urgency and outright greediness when it comes to love. He frantically tries to have another man's wife, completely disregarding the man, and even the woman, just to satisfy his own ego and desires. When Damien finds out his wife cheated on him, he initially loses it, understandably. But he then comes to terms with the situation and moves on, but not in a healthy manner, as he eventually ends up agreeing with Berlin and concludes that love should be felt in the heat of the moment, regardless of whatever situation. This is a very toxic way of viewing love, and this show normalizing it was just a bit jarring. I know it doesn't really mean much and it's just a show, for crying out loud, but hey, that's just an opinion. All in all, was it a good watch? I'd have to say a yes to that. Though it was grating at times, I did still enjoy watching it, and for what it's worth, it kept me at the edge of my seat a couple times. Much like the way Money Heist would, but nowhere near it in intensity. However, the heist was concluded too quickly and easily, barely halfway through the 8 episodes, and the remainder of the show is just pretty much the getaway. There were also a few threads left untied, like what is now the fate of Pontiac? I suppose we're just meant to forget about him or something? Okay. This show is really reminiscent of Money Heist, like I could see the similarities littered everywhere. which is understandable. As long as it works, it doesn't really mean much. So I'm gonna go ahead and give the show a solid 6.5 out of 10, which in my good, bad, ugly spectrum falls under good, so we're good, I guess. Anyway, what did you think about Berlin? Was it good, bad, or ugly? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like this video and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching. Bye.